Hello. Today we're going to talk about how DDoS protection happens on a Juniper router such as an MX. So the concept in how DDoS is implemented on the platform and how it protects its control plane from any kind of DDoS attacks. So I have on the screen, I have how the logical setup of the hardware or architecture of an MX is. So there is a control plane which has the routing engine, and we have DDoS protection also happening on the RE level. In addition to that, DDoS is also extended further down to two levels. So when I say two levels, within a line card like FPC0 as I am showing here, you may have multiple PFEs or ASICs. In addition to PFEs and ASICs, there is something called as line card CPU. In other words, it is also called as U kernel. So every FPC will have a set of PFEs. Sometimes you may even have up to 8 PFEs depending on the port density it is supporting. For the sake of easy explanation, I've just demonstrated as though a line card has only 2 PFEs. And the key here is every line card has this U kernel or CPU, in other words. So likewise, I also have another FPC demonstrating a similar logic. Now, if you look at DDoS protection, it is actually happening at different stages. So DDoS happens at each PFE level, where the first level of rate limiting happens once a packet has been identified as DDoS related. So it is like a pipe. So if I have like 10,000 or 20,000 packets as an allowed rate, and if any packet beyond that 20,000 is arriving on the PFE, which is controlling a set of ports, the first rate limiting happens there. And whatever that is exceeding that value, which I will demonstrate on the router, will be dropped at the PFE level. And then the rest is sent to the line card CPU, which will then send it across to the RE. Now, if you imagine a scenario like ICMP, so let me take a kind of ICMP DDoS scenario. Now, ICMP DDoS scenario, the packet's allowed rate is 20k PPS. So let me just show you that. So when I refer to that, so if you do on the Juniper router, show DDoS protocol ICMP parameter brief. Now you can see that it says an aggregate bandwidth of 20,000 packets per second is allowed. So that means this 20k limit is also available at the PFE level, at each of the PFE levels. So any traffic that comes in from a set of port that controls the ASIC, let me just get this there to just demonstrate what I mean. 1 second. So if you have traffic coming in from this set of ports, from this PFE 0, and if this value is like 25,000, and the limit on DDoS for ICMP, as we know, is 20,000 packets per second, that means we have 5k excess packets of ICMP that is targeting the router. So these 5k packets will be dropped at the PFE level to begin with. Likewise, if you have the other PFE also having like another 25k PPS, again 20k PPS is allowed by PFE 1, and 5k will be dropped on the PFE 1 also. So let me just show you what I mean by that. I'll take this. So if you have here, so 25k coming in on PFE 0, 25k coming in on PFE 1. The rate limit allowed for ICMP per PFE is 20k, which means 5k excess packets are dropped on each PFE. Now this cumulative leftover from each PFE is 20,000 packets, right? So both of these will go up to the U kernel or the line card CPU before they can be sent to the RE. Now this collective bandwidth from each PFE is around 40,000 packets per second. This again cannot be allowed because the line card CPU also will only allow 20,000 packets per second. So that means out of this 40,000, 20,000 from each PFE that is going up to the line card, only 20,000 can be sent towards the RE. So those excess 20,000 will be dropped, and those drops will be recorded under the category of line card CPU or U kernel. Eventually, that 20,000 will be sent up to the RE. Now, if the same story happens with the other line card as well, That means now you're getting to at the RE level 20,000 packets coming in from FPC 0, 20,000 coming in from FPC 1. So that is a cumulative of 40,000 packets coming up to the RE. In this case, RE will also be rate limited to 20,000 PPS. So that means again he will have to drop the excess 20 and manage it. Now all these drops that are happening at different stages are very clearly displayed in the CLI output of Juniper. I will demonstrate this kind of a DDoS attack by just using an Ixia to generate 25,000 PPS of ICMP echo request packets to hit the PFE 0, and we will see how exactly the box identifies this DDoS behavior. So quickly going to the Ixia. So this is an Ixia setup that I have. So you can see my Ixia is just got an Ethernet and an IP directly talking to the DUT, in this case a Juniper MX box. So if I go to the traffic profile that I've created, I'm just opening up the traffic profile. You see it's got an Ethernet header, an IP header, source address, which is just simulating some random source. But for DDoS to really kick in, it has to be targeting the destination IP that belongs to the DUT, which is the router. If the target IP address or the destination address is to an IP that does not belong to the router, DDoS is not going to work. DDoS will only work when they are targeting the router itself. So I know that the Juniper router's interface in this case is 33.33.33.1, and that's the target which is being targeted by the Ixia. And you can see it's an ICMP echo request that I'm sending, because you can see the code value is 8. You can of course craft different things, and I'm sending out a 25,000 frames per second, as you can see in the frame rate. I know that the parameters clearly says that anything beyond 20,000 will be recorded as a violation. So before the start of this violation package, you see the box says clearly no violations. Even on the log messages, it will start recording as soon as violation happens. So I have started the log messages as well. So let's see if it's going to record it. So let me do one thing. I'll filter out only for DDoS, so we can clearly see what exactly happens. So now when I start my DDoS traffic attack from Ixia, so these packets should be entering the DUT on this interface, and you can see clearly I have 24,000 packets, or 25,000 to be precise, entering the box. Now if I do show DDoS protocol violation, you clearly can see before I had that packet started, I didn't have a violation. But once I started the DDoS violation, you can clearly say my allowed limit is 20,000, the arrival rate is 25,000 packets per second, or the peak is at this value, the time at which the DDoS violation happened. In addition to that, it also records an entry on the log saying what really happened. It says ICMP aggregate exceeded. So this is the DDoS violation. Now if you check show DDoS protocol ICMP statistics, it clearly tells you details based on the system location. So for example, the system wide information clearly says total amount of DDoS received, how much it is dropped, and what is the arrival rate and the max arrival rate. Now the key here is, if you look at it, you can very clearly see the routing engine is not dropping it, because if you go back to the diagram, 25K came into PFE 0. PFE did the rate limiting of 20K because only 20K is allowed. It sent the 20K to the line card CPU, which will not have a problem because he's also allowed to handle up to 20,000 packets per second. And then it is being sent to the RE. Now that is why RE does not have a drop here, because 20,000 is not a problem, because you can also see its arrival rate is only 20,000 after rate limit. But look at the FPC, at the FPC layer, it is telling me that the arrival rate is 25,000 and the drops are happening at the FPC layer, not at the RE layer. So if I rerun the command, the drop counters should go up. Previously it was here 727, and you can see it has gone up. Now to go further one step to identify which PFE is dropping it. Of course, in this diagram, I clearly know which PFE my port is part of. I know it's PFE 0. But if you want to quickly identify it, you can log into the FPCs. And if you do show JNH DDoS policers statistics, this is the command. This will work on pretty much on all recent line cards. What this clearly tells me is, you can see there is U kernel. So we were talking about the U kernel. The drops are not at the U kernel level, because in my example, the drops are happening from PFE 1. Apologies, the traffic that I was sending is not at PFE 0, it is PFE 1. So I'll just correct it. I'll probably put this as PFE 2 for ease of understanding. So my traffic is entering on PFE 1. So PFE 1, It came in, it got rate limited due to ICMP allowed only 20,000 packets, and there were certain packets that were being dropped. And all other PFEs do not have such DDoS happening, so it clearly says nothing really came here. So it's a quick way of identifying which PFE really is getting this DDoS. And you can also very clearly see that the U kernel is not really having a problem because the first rate limiting happened here. If my scenario was such that if I had DDoS coming in from different PFEs, both of them would have sent 20k to the line card CPU U kernel. In that case, you would see drops here also. Now to rerun this command, I'm just rerunning to check if the drop values increase on the PFE number 1, and you can see yes, the drops are going up. So this is a quick way of identifying where and which PFE the DDoS is happening. So very clear from this diagram and the behavior that DDoS is pretty much like hierarchical, starting off from the individual ASIC, then to the next level, which is at the line card FPC CPU, and then beyond that is at the RE level. So all these statistics can be easily identified and checked where exactly you're having drops. So if you do DDoS protocol violation, protocol ICMP, which is I know in this case is my ICMP statistics, you can pretty much see all the drops. In fact, you can do show DDoS protocol ICMP without even statistics, and you can see all kinds of details, system-wide information, routing engine side, FPC side, and it gives you a pretty good breakdown. Hope you find this useful. Bye for now.